Greg in Somerville, South Carolina. Oh, the battle flag for Robert E. Lee's Northern Virginia Army was taken down from the South Carolina grounds of the South Carolina State House today. I think everybody at Fox News is wearing black armbands. Greg, you want to talk about the Civil War?
Yes, sir. Yes, and I watched that flag come down this morning with tears of joy in my eyes. Yes, sir. I often get in discussions down here. I've lived in South Carolina for about 10 years. A lot of discussions about the Civil War and that flag. And I was hoping to get a little history lesson from you. Kind of a two-part question. Did the rich landowners, slave owners in the South somehow trick the poor Southerners into fighting the Civil War for them? And if so, is there a parallel between that and what the Koch brothers are doing today to get the Tea Party basically to do their dirty work for them?
Yeah. I honestly don't know. I'm not that much of a scholar of Civil War history. I do know that there was conscription on both sides, in both the Union and the Confederacy. So a lot of poor white Southerners were conscripted. They were drafted. And I think it's really important when we talk about the South and when we talk about the Civil War to differentiate between many good people who showed up for the war without, thinking in terms of the larger issues. Why are we having this war? What's going on? I mean, very rarely in wars do people think about these things. On the one hand, and in fact, in the next hour, I'm gonna go off on our adventures in the Middle East and George W. Bush's role in them and all these kind of things. But the soldiers who went to Iraq were not thinking, oh, gee, I'm going to go fight a war based on a lie. A lot of them thought they were there because of 9/11, which Saddam Hussein had absolutely nothing to do with, and Iraq had nothing to do with. And so I'm guessing that there were probably a lot of poor white Southern soldiers in the Confederate Army who were either drafted or they thought they were defending, their end of the country. And in their mind, they weren't there to defend slavery. Slavery was one piece of the larger threat of, hey, I live in the South. On the other hand, we have to be very, very certain and very clear to point out that the secession statements of the South Carolina Declaration of Secession mentioned slavery 18 times. The Mississippi Declaration of Secession explicitly says slavery is part and parcel of the South. The Vice President of the Confederacy in his cornerstone speech, this is the cornerstone of the Confederacy. This is who we are and why we're fighting. Goes on about how black people are adapted to living in the sun and working in the sun, and therefore they're the appropriate slaves and all this kind of stuff. I mean, it was just at the level of the senior leadership and the money. I mean, there was in 1860. There were 75% of the net productivity of the United States was coming out of the South, and almost all of it was coming from slave labor, or the vast majority of it, of our both internally consumed and export goods. Slavery was not going away in 1860. In fact, it was hitting they were hitting their stride. I know one of the stories that the David Dukes of the world like to tell is, oh, slavery was going to fade out and go away. No, Britain had outlawed it back in the 1820s, but it was alive and well here. So with regard to whether the rich tricked the poor into fighting their war, I'd say, probably, but I'm not sure that the white poor were all that upset about slavery in the South, frankly. And to this day, I mean, you still see this kind of thing happening. Greg, thanks for the call. Good to hear from you.